Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Welcome to the Industry Forum with Nobel Laureates Navigating the Future, AI, Health and Society. My name is Xiang, a fourth-year undergraduate student from the Department of Life Science, and it's my honor to be your MC today. We are delighted to have you join us for this profound intersection of science, technology, and society. To begin our forum, please welcome Dr. Chen Lingyi, Dean of the College of Life Sciences and Medicine at NTHU, to deliver opening remarks and introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Feng Yulian. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to welcome Dean Chen to the stage.
Distinguished Nobel Laureate, Dr. Kobilka and Dr. Roth, our Vice President, Professor Liao, and General Secretary, Professor Cheng, our keynote speaker, Dr. Feng, our panelists, Dr. Li, Dr. Xue, our colleagues, students, and distinguished guests, good morning, and welcome to this industry forum. It's a tremendous honor to gather together with leaders whose work have transformed science, medicine, economics, and innovation. We are privileged to welcome Professor Brian Kobilka, the Nobel Laureate in Chemistry, whose pioneering work in structural biology of G-protein coupled receptors and their translational application has reshaped the modern drug discovery. And Professor Alvin Roth, the Nobel Laureate in Economic Sciences, whose groundbreaking contributions to marketplace have influenced systems from healthcare to digital marketplaces. We are also honored to hear from our keynote speaker, Dr. Yulian Feng, who is also our distinguished alumna. Her leadership in translational science and precision medicine spans the full pathway from research to drug development and precision diagnostics. Today's keynote will set the stage for our dialogue on how AI is accelerating the discovery, refining the future of healthcare, and reshaping the social economics. Today is an opportunity not only to learn, but also to imagine the future we will help building together. With that, it's my great pleasure to invite our keynote speaker, Dr. Yulian Feng, to deliver her lecture, Beyond the Wet Lab, How AI is Radically Accelerating Translational Science. Please join me to welcome Dr. Feng.
对对对，可以，没有卡住了是吧？可以了吗？好像这里卡住了。对对对。不会不会的，可以，卡住了呀。再搞。OK。Sorry for the last minute adjustment. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, good. Thank you, Dean Chen, for your kind introduction. And thanks to Tsing Hua University for hosting this important forum. Good morning, everyone. It is my privilege and distinct honor to be here to discuss with you how AI is accelerating radically the translational science. Actually, let me see. This is wrong. This should work. Yep. Over the past 3 decades, we have witnessed a series of transformation, breakthrough, from precision cell therapy, gene therapy, to rapid deployment of COVID vaccine, mRNA vaccine. But honestly, I think with all that extraordinary accomplishment, nothing come close to what the paradigm shift that AI is going to bring to us, to our field today. So if you look at this 4D map published long ago by NIH about translational science, drug discovery and development is not a straight line. It's filled with parallel loops, with numerous parallel loops and numerous iterations. And each of these loops can take years and millions of dollars. And yet, the complexity of the translational process is not the only hurdle. If we look closer at the entire translational process, we encounter what the industry says, value of death. That is, many great ideas and promising drugs failed during the various stages of the development. Can I see the pointer? Especially during the preclinical and clinical stage. So on average, successful translation for novel ideas to novel drugs is less than 0.01%. And I think this is actually underestimated. Even after years of research, after you identify a drug target, it still takes billions of dollars and more than 10 years to get a drug approved. So you look at every one of these translational loops. As I mentioned, it costs millions of dollars and years of effort. So what that really illustrates is that we are not only struggling and fighting the battle of the complex biology, but we are also fighting a very high attrition rate. So how do we expect AI can change this? So today, we are not talking about a single point incremental improvement. We are talking about unprecedented transformation that would allow us a very high speed, scale, scope to accelerate the entire translation process. So with that, to give a, let me see, as an example, in the past, we can physically screen millions of compounds with parallel, with the sequential workflow in each, by trial and error, and each cycle of iteration takes months, with a hit rate very low, lower than 0.1%, and end up with about 1,000 or so more drugs to test. But today with AI, we can actually explore in the virtually unlimited chemical space, billions of drugs we can explore. With the parallel optimization and with the help of predictive modeling, we can actually have various of iterations. Each iteration only take days versus months. And up to 100% hit rate success. And as a result, you have 6 times to 10 times fewer drugs to be synthesized and tested. So not only that, today, with AI paradigm shift, we are looking at how AI can actually optimize and accelerate every part of the translational journey, from deep understanding of the biology all the way to development and implementation of therapeutic interventions. So hopefully in the near future that we are able to actually reduce the duration and the cost of the entire translation journey by at least 50%. So is this a hype or is this an aspiration? As of today, there are over 3,000 AI-assisted drug programs in development across various stages. Among them, about 100 are de novo designed and developed by AI. I'm going to use a best example, rentosotib, to share with you how this AI-driven paradigm shift is possible. So rentosotib is designed and discovered purely by AI, multimodal AI algorithm, AI-based discovery. And it also uses generative AI for optimization and for synthesis and for testing, all that. So from beginning to the end, successfully enter phase 1 and phase 2. So this is the first fully AI-powered drug. It's the first-in-class AI TNIC inhibitor. a first-in-class target for idiopathic fibrosis. And also the first AI drug ever entered the phase 1, phase 2. And not only phase 2, but successfully completed phase 2. As I mentioned, it's the first IPF drug that enters phase 2 for AI-based design and development. But very importantly, it's the first IPF drug ever show lung functional improvement. So lung functional improvement is traditionally measured by forced vital capacity. So this drug, after 12 weeks treatment, you can see it improved forced vital capacity by 100 ml, while the placebo patient continued to decline their forced vital capacity by about 20 ml. So therefore, rentosutib is a potential game changer. It can potentially reverse the disease and reestablish the standard of care. In contrast, there are 2 existing drugs approved by FDA. They don't actually improve lung function. They only slow down the decline of the lung function. So instead of decline 20 ml or 50 ml, for example, it may only decline 10, 20 ml. So therefore, again, this is a potential game changer for idiopathic fibrosis patients of rentosutib. Next, AI also allowed unprecedented speed for development. From discovery to preclinical candidate, it only took 18 months. To phase 1, it only takes less than 30 months. As a comparison, the 2 previous drugs I mentioned that did not show any functional improvement, it took 15 years or 38 years to develop. Of course, the cost is billions of dollars. And very importantly, with this better outcome, better efficacy, disease-modifying, disease-reversing endpoint, it is expected that the duration and the enrollment of the registrational trial for rentosutib can be decreased by at least 50%, which also translates into significant cost saving overall, and a timeline acceleration by 2 to 5 times. So this is to show you how AI can actually create a paradigm shift from design development to a successful clinical trial. But now I want to share with you an example how AI can also help improve probability of success for clinical trial and potentially reduce the cost as well. So I'm using an Alzheimer's disease failed drug as an example. The Amaranth trial was terminated in 2018 due to lack of cognitive improvement or functional cognitive decline, slow down the progression. So this, as an example, this is the trial result, placebo arm or treatment arm, no difference. An AI-based prognostic algorithm was developed using an independent database and then applied to this failed trial population by separating the fast progression versus slow progression Alzheimer's disease patient. For the fast progression Alzheimer's disease patient, you can see no difference in the clinical outcome for cognitive function. However, in contrast, if the same algorithm isolated slow progression patient, you can see the drug is effectively slow down the cognitive decline by 46%, which is actually better than what is approved, the efficacy that already approved today by the FDA. If this same algorithm is applied to enroll patient prospective, it's projected that it can actually, with the size of the treatment effect, it can reduce the enrollment size by 90%. So if the treatment effect is very little, not significant, you need a lot more patients to demonstrate statistically the drug efficacy. But with this size, 46 slowing of cognitive decline, yes, you can decrease the sample size by 90%. Again, that translates not only increase the probability of success for the clinical trial, but also reduce the overall development cost. So this is a great example to show how AI may improve the probability of success. As of today, we know that there's no AI drug approved by FDA. But it is very important to recognize that AI has already been
successfully applied for diagnostic and medical devices applications. So as of March 30th, when I last checked FDSI, there are over 1,400 AI-based medical device and diagnostics that have already been approved by FDA. And among this, about over two-thirds are radiology-based applications. So what does that tell you? That tells you AI has already created a paradigm shift for diagnostic, for medical device, especially for imaging-based AI tools. Years ago, when I was at J&J, I had the privilege to help initiate 3 independent AI imaging-based diagnostics for pulmonary arterial hypertension and pulmonary hypertension patients. Pulmonary hypertension is very difficult to diagnose. It's a chronic disease. If not diagnosed and treated early, it's deadly. It could be deadly. The mortality rate is pretty high if you delay the diagnosis and treatment. However, the diagnosis of pulmonary hypertension is very challenging. It requires very invasive right heart catheterization to measure the pressure in the lung, in the pulmonary artery, and also in the right heart. So therefore, for these reasons, diagnosis of pulmonary hypertension and pulmonary hypertension are often delayed by 3 to 5 years, increase the mortality rate significantly. So our goal at the time was to develop AI imaging, non-invasive based tools to identify patients at risk of pulmonary arterial hypertension and triage them to right heart catheterization. So to accelerate the diagnosis, early diagnosis, and accelerate the early intervention for better outcome. So as an example, the convolutional neural network model can be developed with on these detailed features of 12-lead ECG detailed data. And the developed algorithm can effectively detect pulmonary hypertension patients 3 years to 5 years ahead with AUC 0.8 or about 0.7. So this is really another game changer. And this diagnostic tool has just recently approved in March this year by FDA. The other 2 diagnostic AI imaging-based tool for pulmonary hypertension that have opportunity to be involved is one is based on ultrasound, one is based on de novo new point-of-care device. Both of these has also been approved by FDA lately. So what I want to emphasize is AI for imaging diagnostic is not new. It's already been out there. It's already creating paradigm shift. Today, AI-based tool can automatically scan the entire hospital network to identify critical conditions such as stroke or coronary artery diseases or pulmonary embolism. And AI-based histology platform technology can help precision diagnosis, early diagnosis of cancers and other diseases such as IBD, irritable bowel syndrome, etc. And very importantly, AI-powered portable device, ultrasound, for example, can actually bring the screening and diagnostic to the patients anywhere. So it definitely create a paradigm shift for point of care, decentralized screening and diagnostics. AI wearable device, as everyone knows, can actually track, monitor, real-time manner, all the vital signs and behaviors. And AI-enabled monitoring real-time blood sugar level can actually help manage diabetes patients, for example. So AI can actually allow us to accelerate time to care by proactive, real-time, continuous, and cost-effective monitoring. And very importantly, at the end, it really not only reduce costs, it really improve outcome to drive overall precision health. So with all of this, I want to switch the gear to talk about another side of AI potential. So we all know cancer is a very terrible disease. If not diagnosed or treated early, cancer is almost always quite deadly. The mortality rate is very high. But I believe personally, AI holds the key to conquer cancer. Why? Because almost all the cancer, if it's diagnosed early, it can be completely cured. For example, you can do surgical removal, right? So most of the cancer can be completely cured if diagnosed at stage 0 or stage 1. So here I want to share with you an example, an AI-based multi-algorithm microRNA signature that was developed for gastric cancer screening. And as you can see, this microRNA-based signature is outperforming all the other existing blood-based tests to identify, to screen patients with gastric cancer. And it's very effective, not only for stage 1 through 4, but it's even very effective for stage 0 high-grade dysplasia. As of today, there are many multi-cancer, multimodal, multi-omic-based multi-cancer diagnostic or screening tests being developed, validated, and commercialized to drive early screening, early diagnosis. So I hope one day, very soon, with AI-powered multi-cancer screening, cancer is no longer a deadly disease. I hope I have convinced you that AI is not a hype. And AI is really radically accelerating translational science. But also, very importantly, I hope I also convince you that AI is the new standard for translational science. So as of today, companies across the industry are increasing investment in the AI. And on average, investing 15% to their R&D or entire business across the different spectrums of their business, from discovery, early development, to business portfolio management, and manufacturing and supply chain management. Many companies already report the tangible outcomes of measurable outcomes of AI, from faster cycling time with the better outcomes and lower cost, and with increased new revenues, etc. So this is, again, demonstrate AI is real, AI is out there delivering the promises. It is expected generative AI to continue to expand and expect to produce tens of billions up to 100 billions of value, the entire pharma biotech industry value chain. Last year, in the joint venture announcement, Project Stargate, I don't know whether most of you are aware of that or not. It's a $5 billion joint venture announced last year, which is to develop, to establish the biggest, most powerful AI infrastructure in the US. And Larry Ellison envisioned using the massive computation power of the Stargate to develop mRNA-based cancer vaccine, discovered and developed by sequencing the tumor DNA in the blood, and can develop customized mRNA vaccine within 48 hours. And that's including AI-driven infrastructure from development as well as for manufacturing. So that established, again, the concept of AI as a tool, and shifted that from that concept to the concept that AI as the core operating system. And along with that, early this year, Eli Lilly and NVIDIA announced the $1 billion co-innovation lab. Lilly's vision is not just to create closed-loop discovery development to facilitate, to accelerate their R&D, but also to deploy the entire AI system across their business, including manufacturing and commercial operation. While AI is being used to accelerate drug development, discovery and development, J&J and NVIDIA also form a partnership to create a virtual operating room with Monarch platform for urology patients, for example. And what that does is that it allows a surgical team to practice on a digital twin that was built based on the patient's anatomy and allow the surgical team to simulate the complicated surgical procedure before the first incision is actually made. And this not only increase the probability of success, but eliminate a lot of complications during the procedure. So again, I want to just summarize this part of the talk that moving forward, the next phase of AI is going toward this closed autonomous AI-driven R&D operation continuous 24/7, coupled with a robotic AI-driven wet lab. So you can imagine this is the future paradigm shift for AI. However, that being said, it's very important to also recognize that AI is not a magic bullet. AI cannot actually address the complexity of biology. And although although AI is very promising, there are still the adoption and performance of AI still have a lot of major hurdles that we need to overcome. To me, the biggest issue are data issues. This is also the number one reason why most or many of the AI platform, AI model failed. Limited volume of high quality data and the imbalanced data set. Most importantly, under presentation of failed experimental data. So I want to emphasize this because imagine what I just said previously, if the overall translational success rate is less than 0.01%. Keep that in mind. Then for every successful experiment, logically you would expect there are 10,000 failed experiments. So in order for the AI model to be effective, every one positive data set needs to be coupled with 10,000 failed data set to train, to validate the AI model. Unfortunately, most of the researchers and pharma companies do not publish negative results. So therefore, this lack of a complete data set that have representative from the negative data, the lack of that is actually skewed the AI model training and validation. So that's a very important gap that we need to address. Imagine if AI cannot learn from the failure, how can the model that is developed can effectively avoid the same mistake that already been made the past decades? So this is, to me, this is the biggest hurdle. Lack of standardized data structure, lack of the standardized benchmarking metrics, that's also a major challenge. There are too many AI models. They are like, PCR, it's been doubling all the time. So how do we benchmark the metrics for its performance? That's a challenge. And very importantly, resource issues. While many bigger companies can afford billions or millions of dollars to invest in AI, most of the startup companies or not well-funded companies or researchers, they don't have that luxury. So resources is an issue, and significant talent gap is also an issue. Lastly, a reality check. Rapid discovery and in silico performance do not guarantee clinical success. And AI can never really escape clinical validation, and it does not replace good science or good scientists. Again, coming back to what I said, data sharing will be necessary. Good data, bad data, failed, positive data, a very complete data set, and the partnership across academia and the different industry will also be required to really unleash the full power of full potential of AI. So to harmonize the translation and the regulation and the expectation of AI for drug development, across the US and EU, the US FDA and EMA co-published the guiding principles of good AI practice in drug development early this year. The goal, this is set a new stage of regulation for AI, and the aim is to promote the use of AI, but in a way that to actually make sure responsible AI deployment, to encourage transparent, trustworthy, life cycle managed, risk-based, and evidence-driven AI. And hopefully with this guidance, we can actually further promote a very robust AI platform to accelerate translation. So now I want to wrap up with my personal aspiration. What I have just shown, can you still hear me? This is falling off. What I have just shown you is a few examples about how AI can actually help accelerate translation, but I focus on drug and medical device development and diagnostic. But personally, I'm hoping AI has the greatest potential for decoding neural signals and decode that and translate that into actions via brain-computer interface. And hopefully one day soon, AI can help us, patients regain or control or modulate their physical activities and maybe restore speech, hearing, and vision, and maybe able to augment memory or slow down the memory loss, and maybe even improve mental health, such as suicidal or depression or schizophrenia, things like that. So that's my personal aspiration. And I'd like to be even bolder and more ambitious. Can AI help us to dissect the details of longevity anatomically and also dissect the aging clock to understand longevity? Can we develop, using AI, to develop the most powerful longevity medicine or longevity vaccine to help us prolong our healthy lifespan? Lastly, I just want to emphasize AI is accelerating translational science, but it also creates impact on every part of our milestone through our human life journey, from the inception all the way to the age process. As I mentioned, can AI be actually used to help us improve our healthy longevity and help us live a long, healthy life? So with that, thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Dr. Feng Yulian, for your insightful speech. Please have a seat. Now, we would like to invite every participant to give a group photo. Please remain in your seat, face forward, and look at the camera in front. Please move to the center and the photographer can get your photo. Thank you. Please move into the center. Yeah. Thank you. We'll now move on to the highly anticipated industry forum. Our forum today will be hosted by Dr. Feng and Dr. Chen Lingyi. As I introduce our esteemed panelists, I would like to invite them to come up to the stage and take their designated seats. First, please welcome our academic host, Dr. Chen, Dean of Professor of the College of Life Sciences and Medicine at NTHU. As an expert in molecular biology and leading academic figure, she is our key academic guide and host for today's forum. Next, please welcome Dr. Hsing, Director of the Institute of Biotechnology and Pharmaceutical Research at the National Health Research Institute. He has long been dedicated to new drug R&D and translational medicine, leading exceptional teams discover novel anti-cancer compounds that have successfully transitioned from the laboratory into clinical trials. Next, please welcome Professor Alvin Roth, Professor of Economics at Stanford University and our distinguished Nobel Laureate, awarded the 2012 Nobel Prize in Economics. Professor Roth's groundbreaking work in market design and matching theory has literally saved lives by optimizing complex systems such as the kidney exchange networks used worldwide. Next, please welcome Professor Brian Kobilka, Professor at the Stanford University, co-founder of Conformant RX, and our distinguished Nobel Laureate. He was awarded the 2012 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for his revolutionary work in capturing the 3D structure of the GPCR in action. Because nearly half of all modern medications target these receptors, his discoveries have fundamentally transformed modern pharmacology and drug design. Next, please welcome Dr. Liao, a key promoter of Taiwan's biotech industry. He is the former president of ISRI and former chairman of the Development Center for Biotechnology. Dr. Li has been instrumental force in shaping Taiwan's biomedical policies and bridging the gap between local biotech innovations and global venture. Finally, please welcome back the industry host and keynote speaker, Dr. Feng Yulin. She's an international biomedical R&D expert in over 30 years of experience. She has served as the Global Diagnostic Strategy and R&D President at Janssen Pharmaceuticals and held senior roles at Novartis and Albert. I will now hand over the floor to our host. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to all our distinguished panelists. Thank you.
Again, welcome all of you to this panel discussion. So I want to first thank Dr. Feng for the very insightful overview on how AI is accelerating the drug development and precision medicine. So I want to begin this panel discussion by asking Dr. Kobilka about, we know G-protein coupled receptor structure usually in a very dynamic state. We discussed a little bit how this dynamic state, the structure can be determined in this dynamic state. So with that in mind, how AI can, which part of AI can be applied to help with the G-protein coupled receptor structure dissolving? And do you agree or not agree that AI can actually be the standard platform for helping the structural biologists to solve the structure of G-protein coupled receptor?
Well, I have to admit at the beginning, I am not an expert at all on AI.
Microphone. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not an expert on AI. However, my lab is starting to use it in a number of ways that I think will help overall drug discovery and development. I guess the first approach that we've used to help us understand structures, protein structures, using AlphaFold. And initially, the early versions of AlphaFold weren't very good, but now they're extremely good at predicting inactive state structures of GPCRs. And so I think Brian Schuckett's lab has actually shown that it's possible to use AI AlphaFold derived structures for in silico screening, and that actually worked as well. So they did a side-by-side AI versus structure-based, and AI came out a little ahead in terms of the however, I think, as you indicated, these receptors are very dynamic, and structures that we get, both AlphaFold and experimental structures, are rather static. They don't reveal the dynamics. And the dynamics can be measured by experimentally using biophysical techniques, and we do that. They can also be measured using computational methods. Unfortunately, there's a big gap in terms of the time scales. So experimentally, we can measure maybe down, if we're lucky, to 1 millisecond transitions in different conformations. Whereas in silico computational methods can measure maybe in the microsecond range, at the low microsecond range. So there's still a gap that I think is important for us to be able to understand transitions to maybe hidden states that we don't know about. These states actually may be important in drug discovery, and I'll talk a little bit about this in my presentation this afternoon. But receptors are incredibly complex. We talk about receptors at the membrane having multiple conformational transitions. However, over the past, say, 5 or 6 years, a number of labs have shown that receptors signal from the plasma membrane, they get internalized, they can also signal from intracellular compartments. And that signaling from intracellular compartments can have a different outcome than signaling from the plasma membrane. And we know very little about what's going on inside the cell. And it's possible, using some labeling strategies, that AI may help us characterize the signaling pathways and understand the role those intracellular pathways play in the function of the receptor.
Thank you. So do you actually foresee the technology like digital twin and AlphaFold will become the standard platform for future research and drug development?
So currently, I think, I can't predict a limitation for AI. It seems like it's going to be able to do everything. However, there are some limitations. For example, we're trying to develop drugs that are called modulators, allosteric modulators. They bind in much shallower pockets. And in our experience, AI can't predict where those compounds will bind. They get it wrong. So, but, I think that's just a matter of time.
Thank you. And over to Dr. Feng.
Shifting from the lab to the market, so Dr. Rose, what is your opinion about the future? How does AI actually impact, economically speaking? And is this price rise for all players, or is this going to be, the landscape is going to be predominantly dominated by a few strong players? So what is your opinion on the economic impact going forward?
Brian started by saying he wasn't an expert on AI, so I should say I'm not an expert on predicting the future. The future is the hardest thing to predict. But when you talk about economic impact, one thing we think about is labor markets. And Dr. Hinton, one of the early developers of neural nets, famously predicted that radiologists would soon go out of business. Some years ago, he said people shouldn't study radiology anymore because AI was going to take over that part of medicine. And that hasn't been the case, although AI image recognition has proved very useful for radiology. I think what's becoming extinct is not radiologists, but radiologists who don't use computer aids. So AI is certainly going to be part of radiology going forward, but whether it will spoil the labor market for radiologists is still to be seen. And that's true of many applications of AI. We don't yet know which applications of AI will substitute for human work and which will complement it, which will make us more productive and open up new avenues for radiologists, for instance, and other kinds of doctors and drug discoverers. Your talk, where you talked about decreasing the cost of drug discovery, is of course going to be a big part of the economics of medicine. And you talked about several different kinds of AI. You talked about text-based, large language models. You talked about things like AlphaFold. You talked about image recognition. And those are probably going to impact things in very different ways. One of the one of the questions that arose, that I thought of while you were speaking, was there are lots of drugs that have been gone through clinical trials and are now standard of care for some diseases. One of the things about large language models is they have vast knowledge of texts, of articles, of databases, and so presumably they're going to make it much easier to search for new uses of existing drugs once we, especially when we understand the pathways and the side effects and things like that. So my question for you is, how much extra drug discovery are we going to get from existing drugs when we're able to comprehensively search databases?
Thank you for throwing the ball back to me. Actually, yes, there's a lot of companies and even academic researchers working on drug repurposing. I was going to talk about drug repurposing, but I didn't have time. It is a very big field. So if you already passed phase 1, 2, 3, or drug already either already approved for certain indication or failed for certain indication, but nevertheless you know the PK, you know the safety profile, can you redeploy the drug for different indication? So that's actually a big sector of the industry. So AI can actually help a potential to dissect the entire disease spectrum and the entire molecule spectrum to matchmaking, which drug can have the highest potential to be repurposed for what disease. So there's a big industry working on that. So I hope I answer your question. So regarding to continue to the economic impact, what do you foresee the human intelligence value would be if AI is doing all the heavy lifting?
So I think we're going to learn something about human intelligence from AI intelligence, but the day when, well, you know, it might be nice if AI does all the heavy lifting, then we can live lives of leisure. But 100 years ago, John Maynard Keynes looked ahead 100 years and said, you know, what will be the economic life of our grandchildren? So our grandchildren are us, his grandchildren. And what he anticipated is we would already be leading lives of leisure. So that didn't come about quite as fast as he thought. And I guess I'm a tech optimist. I think AI is going to do lots of things, but I don't anticipate that our grandchildren will be leading lives of leisure. You know, 100 years ago in the United States, half of the labor force worked in agriculture. And then lots of mechanization came along, productivity increases in agriculture. And today, only 2% of Americans work in agriculture. So I think that AI, like other technological innovations, is going to initiate a sea change in how we deploy our efforts. But I expect that there will still be work for people, including our grandchildren.
Could I just follow up a question that Dr. Feng just asked? Since you are expert in market and market design, AI is very much resources driven, and as a result, what would be the future industry, pharmaceutical industry, in terms of competition, in terms of like what Dr. Feng suggested, maybe only the large one that dominating. What just intuitively, what do you think? Human intelligence, right?
You know, so one question, of course, has to do with data availability. And one of the things that Dr. Feng talked about was, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't merely require clinical trials to be pre-registered, but also require data reporting from failed trials as well as successful ones. But in terms of data, one of the important things in diagnosis for present medicine, as I understand it, and I'm not a doctor, is examining the patient, right? Getting data on what's going on with this person at this time. And so until all of that can be digitized, we're going to need physicians to examine patients and to understand what seem to be the issues. So some of that may be replaced by AI. You know, Dr. Huang talked about devices, things you can wear on your wrist and things like that, that will be AI powered and will collect primary data on patients. But I think it will be a while before all of the relevant data can be collected by the patients themselves wearing devices. So, in terms of the labor force in medicine and maybe the labor force in adjacent parts of medicine is still going to require human beings.
Dr. Li, I have a question for you. You have witnessed the biotech evolution in Taiwan with your effort at ITRI. So what do you envision going forward? What would be the impact of AI in Taiwan's biotech industry, and how the industry should cope with it? Any comments or any visions that you can share?
Well, I think this is a $1 million question, but yeah, I think Taiwan is just at the beginning of developing pharmaceutical industry, mostly very small startups. And after 20, 30 years, we are finally having a sort of medium size of pharmaceutical company now. But in the future, we certainly would like to leverage some of the expertise from Taiwan. For example, we have 30 years of data from National Health Insurance. Now, those are the health data that is not only covering a large population, about 99.9% of population are covered, but also it contains a lot of longitudinal data. It follows up a person from very small, very young to the end of life. So those data are very powerful. Now the question is how can we leverage that? And secondly, the other strengths that we have developed so far in Taiwan is the semiconductor and our information technology industry, mostly in manufacturing. And that alone doesn't really couple with AI, but it supports the AI, the infrastructure. So we have very tremendous business growth in the last year. And as a result, we have very rapid also growth in our economy. So that's a good thing. But how do we leverage those efforts and strengths with the expertise in pharmaceutical, in life science? That's a big challenge. I haven't really seen a lot of efforts. I think some of the startup pharmaceutical drug development discovering companies are starting using AI, and that certainly would accelerate. And if AI can help in one way, that can also help small companies like startups. But on the other hand, they may not be able to have enough expertise and resources to get the other part of the data. So that's the weakness. And I think we have to really work with others. We have to work with an international or multinational pharmaceutical company in order to leverage on our existing data, existing expertise in semiconductor, and also how to help the industry to grow. But one of the important things that I've observed is that our regulatory agency start using AI to help accelerate the review process, which is good, very important too. So that's the part that you haven't covered. But I think it's also important that not in the discovery only, but also in the clinical trial design and execution and the review of the data, approval process, and so on. And that would certainly reduce the cost of drug development. But I think I will come back to the question I asked again about the industry, because that's what I have involved a lot, is that how would the pharmaceutical industry evolve in the future? Is that only a big company that dominates with many small startups, and so no one is intermediates? Unlike today, that we still have a broad spectrum of company. It may drive into like a bimodal type of, or anything else. You know, you may want to address that.
Well, so again, I'm not an expert, but one of the things that drives the industrial organization of pharma and the predominance of big companies is the cost of clinical trials, right? If you are a small company that develops a promising drug, bringing it to market is vastly expensive and time-consuming and resource-consuming. So it's not unusual, I think, for big pharma companies to swallow up small companies at the point where they need that kind of investment. But if clinical trials become cheaper, then it might be that small companies will be able to bring drugs further along to market than they now can. Another thing, you know, listening to you just now, that occurs to me is one of the things, and coming back to the idea of precision medicine, one of the things that AI is good at is combining data sets. And one of the data sets that may be increasingly useful in diagnosis of the future health of individual patients is the health claims data. In the United States, this is insurance claims. And sometimes seeing the claims data, we see this in kidney disease, sometimes seeing the claims data helps identify early stages of chronic kidney disease before they're easily available from other data sources. So thinking about how to regulate the who can inspect health data for what purposes will perhaps facilitate the use of the more comprehensive use of various kinds of data.
So I want to follow up on that. There's a few examples, including one from J&J where I work, that using electronic medical record, real-world evidence to supplement data with a very small trial, because the diseases are very rare. So if you want to use, to enroll enough patients to collect data that is statistically significant, it's going to take another 3-5 years. And by the time you IP or whatever, it's just not very practical and reasonable. So FDA is actually very open. They allow the use of electronic medical record, identify how the drug actually have been used off-label and actually improve the outcome. And when you have a clinical trial data supplement with electronic real-world evidence, the drug can actually be approved, accelerate 3-5 years timeline. So that actually make a huge impact, not only economically, business-wise for the company, but very importantly for patients who have been, most of the patients, if they are lucky enough, they can use the drug off-label. But if they are not lucky enough that the doctor did not know there are certain drugs can be effective off-label use, then those patients have no access to any drug. So thank you for bringing that up. And also, Dr. Lee, you mentioned about the regulatory. Yes, US FDA already effectively using AI to review a lot of the standard submissions and documentations, et cetera. And their goal is actually to accelerate the approval, shorten by 50-90%. So again, that's another big paradigm shift.
That's not only shorten, but also reduce the number of reviewers, right?
Yes,
Human
yes.
reviewers.
Yes, yes.
Would that be affecting the job as well? But coming back to the research part of it, the question for Dr. Kobilka is that, are you anticipating having more postdoc, having more students in the future to help you to do the research? Because many of the audience here are students and are looking for a future with the AI.
So I'm not sure that AI will be a major factor in it, although it would be interesting to have a postdoc who might come in, look what we do, and see if he can find some interesting projects. But my lab is relatively small. That's where I'm sort of the most comfortable that I'm doing a good job. So I don't foresee my lab ever having a major impact on AI.
Right. How about at NHRI? The share. Dr. Xie, how is the AI impacting the research?
Talent.
And would our student get more jobs in the future or less job in the future?
Well, actually, I think that as Dr. Fong said before, I think first of all, AI is not the major bullet, okay? And then AI do need the data, or very good data. So from the drug discovery, maybe we can say 4 different stages. One is early drug discovery. Second is the drug development. Third is the clinical trial. Fourth is the registration. So now you can see for the early discovery, we have a lot of data, so you can see from the PubMed. But however, the second part, we call the drug development, including like the ADME or tox or solubility or permeability. All of the data, most of the data belong to the big pharma. So answer Dr. Lee's question, I believe the bigger company will become the bigger because they hold the big data, just like the Eli Lilly. They collaborate with or merge some AI company. So they have a lot of the internal data, which we don't have. So I think for the institute or biotech company, they will face the challenge. Okay, they need to collaborate with the different small company and produce the drug which can license to the big pharma. All right. The third one is the clinical trial. So normally we see the successful case. We don't see a lot of a failed case. So if you don't have the failed case, how you train the AI, right? So, but right now, a lot of people make an effort to select the patient in clinical trial. The last one is the registration. I think the FDA hold the biggest data in the world. So now they implement the AI, the tool to do the maybe like the first screen, saying if some compound can show some hERG assay, they will come out to see the data for toxicity. So I think just like Dr. Fong say, the compound from the in silico medicine, in silico. So because they have a lot of the early drug discovery, early drug data, just in particular the kinase inhibitor, a lot of the structure to know the binding site, so they can generate the new molecule by the generative AI. So I think the people, like the student, you have to learn how to use the AI tool to facilitate your research. Right? People say AI is not the ghost, but if you don't learn the AI, you will lose your job.
So Dr. Lee was asking about the talent recruitment. So do you have trouble recruiting talents in NHRI?
Yes, I think right now is every university or institute try to hire the high talent, the PI, but unfortunately, the few people went to the abroad to study the PhD. Even my student, master student, want to go to the TSMC instead of pursue their PhD. So that was the problem. But if you are their parents, maybe you will say, okay, go to TSMC, it's good, okay? So that is the problem. But recently, we just had one PI interview from the University of Maryland. because he studied the AI in the FDA, but they face the job security, okay? So they try to apply the job in Taiwan. So we just have the recruitment seminar next Tuesday. So maybe it's some kind of the benefit from the current Trump policy. Okay.
Yeah, when I was the head of ITRI in our national laboratory, I always told students that when I recruit, I told them that TSMC certainly is a very good job. They offer good salaries and fairly good return, monetary return. But when you are just graduating, you are very young, and you should explore more opportunities and explore your talents. And if you definitely need the money very badly, then that should be your choice. But if not, then it's better for you to explore other areas, such as in life science, which is a lot of questions still ahead of us. And the head of the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, he always says that next era is biomedical engineering, and that's relying on AI to. I think he say that, but he doesn't really, have enough depth to think through. But I believe that's it's kind of direction is that AI is helping a lot of science turning into more engineering. that we won't be able to really engineer a lot of life, but now with the tool, AI as a tool, we're able to engineer more and more of life. And that's a big area of exploration. So I encourage young graduates that still look for different kind of jobs, especially in life science. It's a lot of unknown, unanswered questions ahead of us. How about in university? Do you also have some training in AI, using AI in your curriculum of students?
Sure. So the Tsing Hua University actually adapt AI in either teaching or research. So we were talking with Dr. Kobilka yesterday. So there are several labs in our college use AI for drug discovery already and has successful cases and publish. So yes, we adapt AI in our research and drug development pretty early on. Right.
But how about education, training students?
Training students, well, graduate students train in each lab. We use AI like my own lab. We do drug discovery. We also use AI to predict their efficacy, their IC50, and their toxicity too. So we use it quite often actually.
How about in your university? Like, do you have special courses related to AI in life science?
I'm not aware of any, but I know that there are divisions within the medical school where they're much more interested in the application of AI.
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking, following up what you said about the opportunity for students. I think beyond developing AI-driven, whether it's a diagnostic, precision medicine, or drug, think about every one of us in the whole world. We all want to live longer and healthy. So think about that. There's tremendous opportunity for you ahead of you to try to think, is there a longevity vaccine or longevity medicine? Whether you can, with your scientific innovative thinking coupled with AI, you can actually develop a deep understanding of the deep secrets of longevity, and whether you can create something that actually help everyone in the world to live a healthier, longer life. So I would encourage students not only think about biotech for drug development, but I would encourage everyone think ahead of time instead of creating therapeutic intervention to address a condition or a disease, rather than doing that proactively, creating a solution for healthy lifespan. So just an inspiration.
I want to echo that. Just when we're using AI to develop drug and trying to cure all kinds of diseases, but eventually we lose to aging. Right, so promoting healthy age longevity is certainly the trend for future research.
Well, I want to turn the question that I mentioned to Dr. Roth yesterday, is that precision medicine, personalized medicine, is trying to tailor every individual to different therapies for same diseases or similar diseases. And that has changed the market. That has turned a more commodity type of market into a more segmented, very tailor-made type of therapeutics. And it's good, it makes the efficacy better. But on the other hand, it makes the drug very expensive. Some of the cancer treatment now is really skyrocketing, right? So many people couldn't afford it. So starting from like, it changed the market. And is there any type of design thinking that you could help to make the market more efficient and more affordable for more equitable to, you know, poor people or just general people? Maybe you had some comments on that. I know you say you can help yesterday.
Yeah. You know, lots of medicine that's expensive when it's first developed becomes less expensive over time. So some of these modern precision medicine things that we're just learning about now will become easier to roll out and less expensive to make precision. I assume, incidentally, that you're thinking about diseases that involve genetics, either genetics of the patient or of a tumor, because there'll still be lots of diseases that involve pathogens, microorganisms, and those, you know, penicillin will still be a wonderful drug for many diseases, or other antibiotics. But one of the questions that we worry about politically in the United States is the rising cost of medical care in general. And I'm not sure how serious a thing that is, because as we have longer, healthy lifespans, and as we become wealthier, it's not unreasonable that we should be willing to spend more on medicine. That is, we no longer need to spend as large a part of our incomes on nutrition as we used to, right? Calories are much cheaper than they once were. But as we live longer, we might profit from more medical care. So it's the kind of luxury good that wealthy countries, wealthy societies can afford, not just for the wealthiest citizens, but for everyone. So I think we have to think about medicine that way. You know, one of the questions that I hear sometimes asked when people talk about the rising cost of healthcare is, would you prefer to have today's healthcare at today's prices or 1960s healthcare at 1960s prices? And most of us would prefer today's healthcare at today's prices. So part of it is we're consuming more medicine because our lives are longer, and we are, you know, we consume lots of things now that we didn't used to consume, computers, for instance, and some of those, you know, computer memory and semiconductors and chips, you know, they're getting radically cheaper over time per unit of performance, and so. I think what we have to hope for and maybe try to achieve is that medicine should become a little bit more like agriculture in the future, which in terms of its costs, right? Fewer and fewer people produce more and more food at less and less cost. And I think that as we do a good job of medicine, we may be able to bring down the cost. But in the meantime, I meet very few people who would choose 1960s medicine at 1960s costs. So a lot of the medicine we get is worth what we have to pay. As a society, we have to think about income inequality and about how to provide medicine for everyone. But that's different than just making it cheaper.
What's the role government can play in terms of this?
Well, governments, of course, play a big role in dealing with income inequality. And, you know, as Americans, we're poorly placed to talk about national health care because we do a poor job of that. But I think one of the roles of governments is national health care, making good medicine available to everyone.
Well, sorry, I just want to follow up. This one is that national health insurance is good for many people. But on the other hand, it also imposes some of the free market type of spirit and a mechanism that actually not good for developing new discovery or new innovations. That's what we have faced in Taiwan too, that everyone like national health insurance, but for industry it's good, not so good. It's easier to go to a free market system that your innovation can be easily invested and accelerated, easier than in Taiwan. So that's sort of two sides of sword.
So it may very well be good for the world that lots of countries have national health insurance, but the United States doesn't, and therefore there's lots of pharmaceutical innovation in the United States and lots of medical innovation. It's not clear that it's good for American healthcare all the time. I mean, but there's short-term and long-term on these things. So I agree with you that innovation is very important, and we have to think about how to reward it when the market doesn't necessarily do a good job automatically. So one of the examples that comes to mind is the development of new antibiotics. And new antibiotics are not being developed at the rate that they once were. And one of the reasons is that if someone develops a great new antibiotic, it will be hard to make back the research costs on a per dose basis, because a wonderful new antibiotic will be used very little and only for diseases that resist existing antibiotics, because diseases build up resistance to antibiotics. So the ordinary market economics of drug discovery, if you could make a drug that cures baldness, you can have $1 billion drug. But if you make a new antibiotic, you can't sell it by the dose because it'll be only used, it'll be held in reserve. So we have to think of another way of financing antibiotic research in much the same way that we explored new ways of financing COVID vaccines. So I think there's lots that governments can do. One of the innovations for COVID vaccines was pre-purchase of the vaccines before they were developed, right? So that pharmaceutical companies were able to pursue developing them without worrying about the risk of some costs. So this takes us a little away from AI in medicine, but I think your question is a good one. How should we design the pharma market, the market for new drugs, for new antibiotics, for new vaccines? Because vaccines, like antibiotics, are drugs that if they work well, you don't get to give a lot of doses, right? People are vaccinated and then they don't need a vaccine anymore, maybe. So it's not like drugs that you take for now cholesterol or obesity that people will take for their whole lives every morning. We have to think about how to design the market for pharmaceuticals to take account of all the drugs we need, not just the ones that can be sold at high volume.
So I want to change this social economic impact to the medicinal chemistry. So Dr. Xue, in medicinal chemistry, does the development of AI designed drug more challenging compared to like human designed drug? Because AI designed drug often be non-intuitive according to our human intelligence, right? Do you have any experience that can share with us?
Well, first of all, I would like to say I'm not the AI expert. Well, when we studied the organism 40 years ago, synthetic chemists heavily rely on the accumulated knowledge and the memory, okay, because we need to memorize all the chemical structure, okay, that time. There are no powerful database or a computation tool. So develop the synthetic route require extensive the reading and the experience and the institution built over the time. But now, today, with the emergence of the AI and the large chemical database, the situation has changed significantly. The AI can generate, expand the chemical space we can explore, generate a million or even the billion of the possible compound by the combination carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, etc. But this provides a medicinal chemist with the unprecedented opportunity for the molecule design. But they also introduce the major challenge. Why? Our current synthetic methodology cannot keep up with the vast number of the AI-generated structure. Many of the AI-designed compound or chemical fragment have never been synthesized before, so making them difficult to produce by using the current synthetic chemistry. From my own experience, particularly through the collaboration with the Chen, the lab recently, we often need to develop the new synthetic methodology to access the AI design molecule. There is the significant bottleneck and require substantial effort in methodology development, not just molecular design. As Chen said before, hey, Dr. Xie, where is our compound can be synthesized? I say, soon, because my postdoc, two postdocs developed the new methodology to synthesize the compound which designed by the Chen lab by the generated AI. So just like Dr. Feng said before, the AI is another major burden. The AI expands what we can imagine, okay? But the synthetic synthesis determines what we can actually make. That's where the real challenge lies. So the future of the medicinal chemistry will depend not only on the better AI design, but also advance in synthetic methodology that can make this the novel molecule accessible in a practical way. So it's a challenge. But however, recently they also have a lot of the database to help for synthetic methodology, like we call retrosynthesis. We draw the structure in the database. They tell us how to synthesize this compound like within the 10 steps. But we still need to do the lab work to try to synthesize. But sometimes it fails. Recently, my experience, the AI company designed one molecule, and then we synthesized. But we found out in the last step, we try to cyclize the molecule, but the compound uncyclized to the other way. So that is very difficult to predict now. So finally, we found out we couldn't synthesize the design compound. So I think the AI can really help, okay, or can enlarge our imagination. But however, we still need the lab work to achieve, okay?
So Dr. Xue is very humble. It seems every step of the chemical synthesis is very challenging, but they can overcome it and synthesize the chemical efficiently. So I want to give him the credit for that. So how do you train the talents? Because they are all new compound and you cannot find literature to guide the student or postdoc how to synthesize it. So in order to create new pathway, which we never did before, how to train the talents?
That is a very good question based on our recent collaboration. At beginning, you gave me the three compounds, and I asked my postdoc, say, hey, please look at the database like the SciFinder. Can we find the synthetic route? And then after he organized the synthetic scheme, I say, oh, why you take so long, like the 10 steps to make the molecule? It's possible, can we shorten the some synthetic step if some starting material is available? And then I asked him to look at the starting material from the database. Oh, finally we found out we can either buy or we just make one more step to form the starting material. Once you have the starting material, so we can shorten the synthetic scheme. But if you just take a look at the database, well, it tells them you need the 8 steps to synthesize. But if we have the available the starting material, we can shorten the synthetic scheme. So that's why we still need the human intelligence. Okay.
Right. Human experience is certainly helpful. Okay, in this case. So since we are all in university, I want to ask Dr. Kobilka and Dr. Roth. So education is facing a challenge, especially when this is the AI era. So if AI can analyze data, can probably synthesize the literature, the paper, so should university change or rethink its mission? Right, so if AI now can analyze the data, the experimental data, for instance, and synthesize the literature, like writing the paper, so should university rethink its mission?
My answer is probably not. I think we don't want to train people to simply tune into a program and gain information that AI has identified in the literature. I mean, I think one of the problems with using AI for drug development is that there's a lot of information in pharmaceutical companies that will never, that at least people outside of the pharmaceutical company won't have access to. And I mean, certainly in running a basic science lab, I will try to take advantage whenever I can, but I don't think that means that I'm going to hire more computational people and fewer experimentalists. I still think the role of my lab is to generate the data that someone can use for AI. And I just want to also bring up a point about healthcare. I know it's sort of off the topic that you asked, but in the United States, I think it's, having no national healthcare system, there's no resource for AI data to collect data from multiple different, people who aren't insured, as well as multiple different insurance companies, whereas a national healthcare system might help us to generate databases that could then be used. So I think the United States is at a disadvantage because of our healthcare system, in a way.
So you ask, should universities reconsider their mission? And I think the mission, well, universities have many missions. One is to generate new knowledge. One is to educate students. I don't think we should think about changing our mission, but we're certainly going to have to adapt our methods to new technology, just as we did when computers became available, right? There was a time when I was in college, a computer was something that lived in a building by itself, and you went with your stacks of IBM cards to serve the computer. But now people carry their computers with them to class, and we've adapted. We teach students to use computers, and I think we're going to have to learn how to teach the use of AI. But our fundamental mission, which is both to train, educate people, and to develop new knowledge, will stay the same.
Can I follow up on that? So for Dr. Kobilka and Dr. Roth, we just talked about the changing emission or whatever. How do we educate students? That's one aspect. But more importantly, how do we make sure teachers and professors are up to date? That they can actually have the capability or have the desire or willing to teach the new era that AI is playing a big role. I mean, for myself, I feel like, okay, I'm involved in the AI imaging, but for AI drug development, all those specialized AI, I honestly don't know much about those models. There are too many models. So I'm very happy that I'm semi-retired. Otherwise, it's very daunting, very competitive. So my question is really, how do we best prepare educators, professors, and teachers, whether it's in college level or graduate school level? How do we prepare teachers for them to be able to educate the next generation students?
It's a very difficult question.
Yeah, that's a good question. But of course, we don't rely exclusively on elderly professors. When we run a university, we're always hiring young people who have just gotten their PhDs and are familiar with the most current techniques in their areas. And I think that's always been the case in universities. And you know, we don't today regret that we missed an opportunity to figure out how to use computers. We figured it out. Our students learned to use computers, but it's possible that when we were young, we didn't learn the best ways to use computers from our most elderly professors. We may have learned from our younger colleagues. So I think that's going to be true here too. We constantly hire people who can do things that we can't do. That's how universities regenerate themselves.
So I have a question on Professor Roth. I have some experience when I in the graduate school at the SUNY Stony Brook. When I entered the lab, our senior, the PhD student, his major is economy. Okay, so my question is, if you have the student study the economy in undergraduate study, when he want to pursue the graduate study, 3 choice, okay? 1, economy. 2nd, medicine. 3rd, agriculture. Okay, so what's your recommendation for your student when they have the economy in the bachelor degree? They want to pursue their graduate study.
So this is like precision medicine. It depends on the student.
Okay.
You know, I spoke a little bit in the question and answer yesterday about people who want to get PhDs and think what to do research on. And it's important to identify important problems that are important enough to occupy your attention for a long time. But it's also important to enjoy the methods of work that you will employ in addressing these important problems, because if you don't like the work, you won't be able to work hard enough. So some students should still become economists, because the economy is not going away. It's going to be transformed, but we're going to need economists. Some students should certainly go into medicine, some of them into clinical medicine, to treating patients, some of them into medical research, to figuring out new things to do. And there's still plenty of room to change agriculture. Not, you know, when you say go into agriculture, I'm thinking not of becoming a laborer on a farm, but of doing research on crops and how to adapt them to climate change and things like that. Because agriculture, while it's no longer, well, we don't think of agriculture as such an exciting thing to do research, because we've become so successful at agriculture, and we're going to have to continue to maintain our success, to be able to feed people globally and cheaply and adequately. So if I had a student who was interested in agriculture, I would not discourage him.
Okay. The reason I asked the question, my senior, the PhD, he has the economy in bachelor degree, and then got his PhD in organic sciences, and went to the pharmaceutical company, and then become a top manager. okay, because he knows the economy and the census and the medicine. So when you change the field, and then you have the multidiscipline, the skill to become the top manager. So I always say, believe in the economy is very important.
So I can see that many people are typing questions through the Slido. So are we all open for the question from the audience?
Okay, hi. So I'm a junior faculty here, as long as Dr. Huang here and Dr. Luo are advising. We will help with the audience questions. And then when the audience register, we already asked them to ask their questions, so we picked several of them. By the way, you've covered many of what the audience asked, so, which makes my job really difficult. Thank you for that. So the first question is for Dr. Kobilka. So how do you envision the optimal synergy between the dry lab and the wet lab in the future, especially in the AI era?
Well, I'm not sure I have the optimal, but I can tell you that it's sort of happening organically. If you were to look at publications in Nature 20 years ago, they would be almost entirely from a single discipline. And nowadays, you need 20, 30 authors to cover all of the disciplines that are needed to collect the data. So I think it's already happening. I don't know I have any advice on how to make it happen faster or better.
So you think it's already happening?
But
and it will be happening.
If you recall your discovery or your research on GPCR, which is so important for drug discovery now, can you, when you record, if you have AI as a tool, would you be helpful for you to discover all this, or maybe it would help to accelerate your progress rather than discovery? Which part that you think AI would contribute more?
So many of the methods that we develop for, and I'll talk a little bit about this afternoon, that we develop for obtaining the most complex structures, really happened because I would meet people, they would have interesting technologies, and we managed to incorporate a large number of disciplines just through interactions at scientific meetings. And I think that information now can be used to generate, can be used using AI to generate other kinds of applications for this technology. But I'm not sure that, since many of these reagents didn't exist, I'm not sure that I would have had access to them through AI. It was really through personal interactions with people.
So it's more of the human skill and the interaction of multi-facet, multidisciplinary that creates the ideas rather than AI. You can rely on AI for discovery, but AI certainly can help to accelerate. For example, we used to do a lot of X-ray crystallography. We have to crystallize proteins, right? And those are the work that probably AI can help a lot, great deal.
Well, I'm not sure how much it will help with crystallography, but it will help with cryo-electron microscopy in a big way. Help to, so a lot of cryo-electron microscopy involves just visual inspection of many particles. And the person who's doing that inspection is deciding, I'll put them in this pot or that pot or that pot. And depending on how good they are, the structures are really good or they're not. And this is a case where AI is definitely going to be able to accelerate our ability to obtain high-resolution structures.
Curious, who did you, at the beginning of discovery, you mentioned about interaction with other people. Who are the kind of, are they from different disciplinary, or obviously this is very important that you get idea from interacting with other people. And can you share some?
So probably the most important interaction I had early on in my career, when I moved to Stanford, I had no experience in structural biology, but I knew I needed to make a lot of protein. And so I spent most of my time doing that. And there wasn't really, because it was a relatively new field, I didn't have much in the way of the literature to help me. But once we could make the protein, I then needed to know how to grow crystals. And my first colleague at Stanford that really was, I would say, involved in almost all of my success was a structural biologist named Bill Weiss, who was incredibly generous with his time and very patient with me. And then other really important collaborations involved a person named Roger Sunahara, who was a G protein expert. And he sought me out and said, we should really start looking at how receptors activate G protein. So all of this sort of happened through personal interactions more than me sitting at the computer and looking for papers where I could find people who are doing what I needed to learn how to do.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so the next question is for Dr. Rose. So in Taiwan, the demand for kidney transplant still far exceeds its supply. And so the audience is wondering, from a market design perspective, how would you advise us to potentially optimize our system?
Well, demand for kidney transplants far exceeds supply because there aren't enough transplantable kidneys. One reason there aren't enough transplantable kidneys is the law in Taiwan limits who can donate a kidney to whom, right? So in Taiwan, I can't give you a kidney. You can only get a kidney from a member of your family. But members of your family may not be compatible with you, or maybe you have a family that inherits kidney disease and members of your family are not healthy enough to donate a kidney. So one way to increase the supply of transplantable kidneys would be to relax the restrictions on who can give a kidney to whom. In the United States, we see lots of living kidney donations being done by friends, by members of the same church, by members of the same labor union. By policemen to other policemen. So we get a lot more transplants than we would get if we got them by family. We still don't get enough. That wouldn't solve the problem, but it would ameliorate the problem. And in general, I think we might think more about how to get more transplants, including deceased donor transplants, right? So getting deceased donor transplants involves thinking about how to recover organs from people who have just died. Mostly when we recover organs, we're talking about patients who have suffered brain death while on a ventilator. But there's also patients who suffer circulatory death who didn't die because of brain death. And you have to work very fast to recover organs in that case, and that requires a cultural understanding of what it means to be dead in a way that still leaves your organs alive enough to be transplanted. So I think that progress can be made on all of those avenues. And of course, in the longer term, we're starting to see the possibility that genetically modified pigs may be able to donate organs, things like that. And that's very promising, but medical advances are much slower than consumer electronics advances. So everyone who needs a kidney today will probably either get one or die without one before pig kidneys become widely available. So we have a responsibility to try to increase the availability of kidneys now, and some of that has to do with legislation.
Thank you very much. Next, we have a question for Dr. Xie. So the question is, what is your advice to the young biologists who may be interested in using AI in your research, but they don't have either the computing resource or the skills?
Well, my advice is start simple and focus on the problem, not the tool. Just like Dr. Fong said before, the AI is not a major bully. So you don't need to build out an AI model, okay, by yourself. Today, the many powerful AI tool and the platform are already available and user-friendly. Learning how to use this tool effectively is often more important than develop the new algorithm. I give you the one example. You can check the website. Recently, is the people in Australia. He has his LD dog, okay, with the tumor. He didn't know any have the biotech knowledge, but he did use the AI and like the ChatGPT or Gemini to find out the neoantigen. And then he asked one university to make the messenger RNA for him. And then he inject to his dog, and then make the tumor shrink. So you can check the headline news now. So it's just like Dr. Fong on the presentation. They also have some messenger RNA vaccine to treat the pancreatic cancer. But now you think you can treat your LD dog, okay? So I think you don't need to, well, in that case, maybe you will say it's rare, but however, how to use the AI tool is very, very important. When you use the ChatGPT or Gemini or even Cloud, every tool have their specialist. So you need to know understand the tool rather than just have writing the algorithm. But if you can write the algorithm, now AI can help you write the equation. That will be good. I heard in the biology, the lab, you have several data, and then you tell then the AI to write down the equation, and then you change some parameter. You tell them, can you predict what's the IC50? I think that is very good. And then the second is that you have to have the collaboration. Okay, I don't know the AI, but I know how to use the AI to solve my problem. Just like I said before, I can ask somebody to make the messenger RNA for me, and then I can do my lab work. So collaboration is very good. Finally, the strong foundation in biology and the critical thinking. AI can generate results, but understand where those results make the biology sense is still your responsibility.
Thank you very much. So the next question from the audience is for Dr. Li and Dr. Fong. So the audience are wondering, how does the AI impact future trends in drug discovery? For example, does it bias towards drug repurposing or new drug creation?
As I mentioned previously, there's a lot of companies already working on drug repurposing using AI. So what you can do is you can use AI to screen existing failed drug or approved drug for their molecular mechanism, what potential targets they are targeting, what potential pathways they are targeting or molecules they are targeting. And on the other hand, you can have an AI to help you assess various different diseases, what are the potential pathways and the mechanisms that are associated or as the driver, the root cause of the disease. Then using these different tools, you can emerge those and identify potential new indications for an existing drug, whether it's already approved for different indication or whether it's a failed whatever indication but can be repurposed for a completely different indication. So that's already been going on. And it's going to create a huge impact because it can accelerate the clinical trial. If the drug already failed, already approved, you don't need to worry about PK, PD, safety, etc. You just need to do a very straightforward proof of concept registrational trial, for example. So that's one thing. In terms of new, I think the question is about repurposing and also new drug, right? New drug, as I mentioned, AI can actually optimize not only on the discovery, help you understand biology. So biology is very, very complicated. I think AI to help you understand biology, that will require multimodal data. As I think someone mentioned about having all the multi-omics and precision and identify what's the root cause, what's the fundamental mechanism associated with that disease or that condition. So AI can help you nail down what are the potential pathways, what are the potential drugs. But as Dr. Xie also mentioned, once you have a target to synthesize that molecule to actually help you to optimize to get into a clinical trial, that's still a long way to go. So there's no single AI tool currently can do everything. So there are a lot of specialized AI tools, as I mentioned very briefly in my talk. Many different specialized AI tools. Some help you to optimize a certain part. But hopefully in the future that there are many, many tools that can combine and fully integrated that to help you from point A to point B. Point A meaning the initial discovery, point B meaning successful drug or successful intervention, whether that's a drug or diagnostics or medical devices. So I think AI is creating a paradigm shift and a huge impact in the entire translational journey. I hope I have answered the question. And Dr. Li, you want to elaborate?
Yeah, actually, the lecture from Dr. Fong has already answered the question that there are many areas that AI can help. But as far as the repurposing or new drug discovery, I think both are very, I think AI can help in both areas. But in terms of repurposing, I think there will be a period of time that there will be a accelerating process for repurposing, but discovery it takes longer time. So I mean, a lot of people are trying to take advantage of using AI for drug repurposing right now, but it will be just a wave, and then there will be tailoring, I believe. But the real key is to identify the needs, right? Identify where is the needs, and where are the issues, how to define the problems. Otherwise, AI cannot help you. But that's the important part, understanding the biology, understanding the clinical implication, understanding the market. And that's where the needs has to be defined.
One thing very important I failed to mention, whether it's repurposing or whether it's novel new drugs, it's very important to keep in mind from day one, from the get-go, that the drug cannot be developed and marketed with incremental improvement in efficacy or safety profile. If it's repurposing, if the drug is very cheap, at the minimum, it needs to be equivalent to the standard of care. But if you can create a drug, whether it's from repurposing or from de novo, especially for de novo, it's very important the drug need to have a competitive edge, whether tremendous improvement in safety profile or tremendous improvement in efficacy or tremendous improvement for administration route. For example, if given everything equal, the drug has pretty much similar efficacy, pretty much similar safety profile. However, instead of IV injection weekly, now I can take it orally. Or instead of every day 3 times oral tablet, now I can take once a month, right? So that's the competitive edge. You need to think ahead. You need to understand, not now, but by the time your drug, whether it's a repurposing drug or whether it's de novo, discovered, developed de novo, that drug, by the time your drug is going to be commercialized, approved, right? By that time, whether that's 3 years from now or 5 years from now or 2 years from now, what would be the standard care? Can your drug compete with the standard care? From what aspects? From efficacy or from safety or from cost or from administration route? So these all need to be think ahead, plan ahead. Otherwise, you may think, oh, no big deal, I just do repurposing, very fast timeline, very low cost because AI help a lot. But then you come out with a drug you cannot compete. And at the end, it's still a failure. So that's one thing I just forgot to emphasize.
Thank you. So the next question is for any of the panelists, but I think we will start with Dr. Chen. So how would you choose your career path if you were a student in biology now?
It's the same actually, because so it's the so I love doing experiments so much. Although I change the direction of my research once in a while, just because I get interested in another aspect of research. But if I get to choose again, I would choose the same.
Any other panelists want to share their thoughts?
Well, student in biology depends on what kind of student. If it's a graduate student or undergraduate student, that would make big difference. But myself, I did my PhD, and then I went to work at the National Lab in the United States. And then I decided to go to MBA. I got a business school. I went to business school at University of Chicago. And then I went to work for industry, and then I worked for institute. So it's a very, very different paths. Everyone would have different paths. But if I were to choose again, I would probably choose to go into more industry and business direction. That I think I wouldn't be able to get a Nobel Prize if I continue to pursue my academic career.
Maybe I share my own perspective. I think it's very important you follow your passion. So as Dr. Rose also mentioned, and Kobilka also mentioned, and Dr. Shi too, I think whether it's economy or whether it's biology or medical engineering or whatever, find something you enjoy doing, and that the process of learning, whether you are troubleshooting in the lab or whatever you are dealing with, you have to be able to actually enjoy it. If you enjoy it, then work is not work. Work become a hobby. But if you don't enjoy it, every day could be a struggle. So follow your heart, follow your passion, whether it's biology or whether it's physics. And then don't think about getting Nobel Prize, just enjoy the process, because oftentimes you cannot. I wanted to get a Nobel Prize early on. Maybe one day I would, but then I end up escape from the academic and then run away from academic and I went to industry. And I have no regret because I have developed vaccines that save life. And I feel, after I joined Chiron, I finally feel like where my passion is. My passion is saving lives. My passion is creating long-lasting impact. And I can knock on the wood, hey, I launched this, I developed this, I saved lives. And that making me tremendously feeling so overwhelmingly fulfilled. So find your passion and find what you enjoy doing, and then let that passion drive you. That would be my personal experience and aspiration as well.
I have some suggestion. If you are a student in biology, please learn some more chemistry, okay? Why? So Vice President Liu is he was the chemistry background, and then when he studied graduate school, so he shipped to the biology, okay? So if you are the high school student, I would like to say you probably can choose the chemistry as the undergraduate study, and then pursue the biology in graduate study. You know, the chemistry, because it's the basic science now. Or sometimes people say you learn the chemistry and then you can learn the biology. But if you learn the biology first, maybe some difficult to learn the chemistry, because the chemistry is like the structure. Everybody complains, say, oh, you have to memorize all the structure, the carbon and the nitrogen is very difficult. But however, I think once you learn the biology and the chemistry, and then you can pursue the physician, the medicine in graduate school. Because once you become the physician scientist, you can have the biology and the chemistry together, so you can become a very good physician scientist. And then it will help you pursue your next career, even in the pharmaceutical industry or academic career to win the Nobel Prize. Okay.
I want to give a different suggestion. They should choose biology first, because biology is too complicated. Okay, you need 4 years to really understand background fundamental knowledge of biology. Then you just collaborate with chemists.
Maybe Dr. Kobilka and Ross can share with us your wisdom.
So I'm very happy with my career path, although I didn't plan it out very far ahead of time. If I have a young student come to me and ask me what I think they should do, I think, but it's mainly because I have a diverse background. I had a chance to become a physician. I had a chance to care for patients, and I really enjoyed that. And I think ultimately informed my my future research directions. So, and I don't think, unfortunately, in the United States and probably throughout the world, physician scientists are becoming sort of a rare breed. There are fewer and fewer people who choose this pathway for a number of reasons. And while I don't think you have to be a physician to do great research, obviously, I think there are some unique perspectives you gain from clinical practice for at least a period of time that helps to inform the direction of your research.
All right, I hope everyone have fun this morning. So as we come to the conclusion,
Can we also hear from Dr. Roth?
Dr. Roth, do you want to say something? Oh.
Okay, so I was never a student of biology, but if you're a very young student, I think one of the things you have to do to search out what your passion will be and what you should study is to find inspiring teachers. And you shouldn't decide too early. You shouldn't necessarily come out of high school thinking you know what you want to do. You should, at a big university like this, there are things you never heard of, and you should be open to exploring them. And it's a big world, so you can't explore everything. But if you don't explore enough, you have less chance of finding what it is that you would really like to do. So keep your eyes open, especially younger students, to things that might possibly inspire you and that you'd be willing to spend a lot of time pursuing.
What if many students have a passion in making money?
They can endow universities later.
All right, as we conclude today's forum, I would like to thank our keynote speaker, of our panelists and participants for your wonderful discussion and invaluable contribution. So today's forum represents a convergence of disciplines. AI is no longer a tool. It is transforming how we discover medicine, diagnose disease with precision, and design healthcare systems. As innovation accelerates, we must also navigate our responsibility, our shared contribution, and also the evolution of education and ethic of innovation. So we look forward to continue this dialogue and help building the future of health together with you. And thank you, and have a wonderful day.
So ladies and gentlemen, as we approach the end of our scheduled time, this concludes our industry forum. Please give me one more round of applause to our excellent hosts and our distinguished panelists for their profound insights. Thank you all for your enthusiastic participation. Please make sure to take all your personal belongings with you as you leave. Thank you and have a nice day.
So we can have a thumbs up.